fun weekend in sports, highlighted by a 27-year-old man outboxing a 58-year-old man in front of a live crowd of 72,000 and more than 60 million people watching around the world.
Not the highlight, and I immediately regretted staying up to watch it. Not the highlight, that's for sure.
We are living in the strangest of times. In college basketball, nothing that happened this weekend generated that many headlines, but our reigning national runners-up did extend their home winning streak to 21 games. So let's start there. Final score: Purdue 87, Alabama 78. Trey Kaufman-Renn took 23 shots, made 12 of them, got 26 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Braden Smith added 17 points, 10 assists. Fletcher Lawyer got 17 points on only 9 shots. So Purdue now 4-0 so far post Zach Edey. I've moved the Boilermakers up to number 8 in the top 25 and 1. Alabama is down to number 9. Norlander, I'm sure I don't have to remind you that on Friday, one of us told listeners how much they trusted and believed in Mackey Arena, and the other one of us picked Alabama. So please consider this your opportunity to apologize for doubting the powers of Mackey Arena, not to mention Trey Kaufman-Renn. If you'd like to speak to Guy Red Mackey directly, you can't. He's no longer with us. We lost him back in 1971 following complications from a stroke.
Yeah.
Dean of Big Ten ADs, Red Mackey, gone at the age of 65. And here you are, 53 years later, doubting the arena that now bears his name. Shame on you. What do you have to say for yourself? Shame on you.
That one's on me.
Shame on you.
So you're going to give the credit for the win to the building and not the coach and the players. I just want to make sure
the coach and players obviously played a role.
But what, 5%, 6% mostly Mackey Arena, the building?
I mean,
I believe your words were, I'm going to trust the building. Not I'm going to trust Matt Painter, and I'm going to trust Braden Smith, and I'm going to trust Trey Kaufman-Renn. Your words were, I'm going to trust the building.
They're all a part of the building. They're all a part of the building. Everything's a part of the building. Jerry Palm is a part of the building.
Jerry Palm, yeah.
Yes, Jerry Palm is a part of the building. The building special is named after Red Mackey. He's the Dean of Big Ten ADs. We lost him, complications of a stroke.
Yeah. When did you learn that, by the way? About 2 hours ago?
Man, last night. Last night. Family went to bed early. I was up late. I had plenty of time to do all my. I found a New York Times article from February 1971. We lost. It's, you know what it said? This is the headline. The headlines used to be so much. I don't know, just
less SEO driven.
It was like Purdue AD dies. It wasn't even like it got straight to the point.
To you, that's a riot. Okay, fair enough.
It got straight to the point. I appreciate a headline to get straight to the point.
It got succinct. Yeah, you love a good succinct headline.
Maybe they didn't have much space to work with. I wasn't there.
All the news that's fit to print.
I wasn't there in 1971. Anyway, it's all a part of the building. The building special. They've won 21 straight games in that building. Question. Are they going to lose one this season?
Oh.
They got 12 more home games this season, 2 more bye games, and then a 10-game Big Ten home schedule. Will they lose at home this season? Ken Pom says they're currently projected at least to be favored in every one of those games.
They're projected to be favored in everyone, but I think
thank you for repeating exactly what I said.
Chances would be sub 50% they would actually win all of their home games.
Yeah, I know how math works. I know how math works, Norlander.
Well, you did. I mean, I clued you in on how that whole thing works, I think about a year or two ago. So
I know, but now I know. Now I know. I didn't know 2 years ago how math works. I didn't know how math works 2 years ago, but at this age, I know pretty much everything you need to know about math and everything you need to know about Red Mackey. I'm sitting here right now. I pretty much know everything you need to know about math and Red Mackey.
I think you're above 50% Boilermaker again, by the way.
I feel like it.
Yeah,
I do feel like it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm just checking out the home schedule. Marshall, Toledo. I think they're probably safe there. I mean, there's a chance. I'll say they lose one, but I'd be shocked if it was more than one. Again, this is your preseason pick to win the Big Ten, but as the thumbnail, if you will, of our YouTube video indicated, Purdue right now looking just fine in the post-Zach Edey era. Matt Painter, kind of a good coach. You mentioned the 21 straight home wins. We'll get to the actual game here, but I'm going to get some big picture stuff involved here to start it off. Here's what's impressive. They are 6-6 in their last 12 games against the number 2 ranked team in the country. To go 6-6, it's pretty damn good. They have won now 39 in a row in non-conference play. 39 in a row. It's tied for the 4th longest streak in the history of men's D1. And they've had 6 of those wins against teams ranked in the top 7, GP. They're 12-3. If you go beyond this, they're 12-3 in their last 15 games against ranked opponents. It's pretty damn outrageous. And when they've won some of these games within the confines of this 39-game streak that goes back to December of 2020, keep in mind, they did it winning the PK 85 when they beat Duke, when they beat Gonzaga. They beat Gonzaga again the next year, which was last season in Maui. They beat Tennessee. They beat Marquette. Before that, I saw them do it at Mohegan Sun a few years ago. Jay Wright led Villanova and North Carolina. So they have done this and beaten some pretty big programs while doing it. Alabama, meantime, I mentioned this stat on the Friday show. They had lost 6 straight road games against ranked opponents. Now that is, of course, 7 straight, and it speaks to how tough it is to pull these games off. Here's what Nate Oates said afterward: "Quote, we schedule these games for a reason. We like to go against the best teams in the country and figure out what we have to work on, and we have plenty to work on because they are good." End quote. He's right. It was an awesome watch. Friday was terrific across the sport, as we expected and teed you up on Friday on the Friday morning pod. For Alabama's end of it, Mark Sears had 15 points, 6 dimes, 4 boards. Not as good as he needed to be. There were a couple of spots in the final 5 minutes where the ball was in his hands and the possession didn't end in points for Alabama, either be it on a missed shot by him or a decision that didn't go his way. Bama was leading this game with about 11 minutes to go by 6. And then CJ Cox, who was sub 250 in the rankings, he's a freshman, decides to introduce himself to the country, and he had a personal 9-0 run, and that was part of a greater 13-0 run by Purdue. Game flipped. Bama never had a chance after that. And what I didn't realize until I had checked the box at the end of the night, Purdue only had 3 turnovers, GP. That tied the program record for fewest in a game. If you're Bama, you go on the road. They only had 8. So 11 total turnovers in the game, a highly anticipated matchup. You only turn over 8 in a hostile environment. You think you're going to have a halfway decent shot. Purdue only had 3, came up big. A lot of that obviously falls to Braden Smith, who was really, really good again. Trey Kaufman-Renn he's going to lead the team in scoring. He had 26 in this game, 8 boards, played well. Fletcher Lawyer had 17, but Braden had 17 points, 10 assists, 6 boards, and only had 1 turnover. I do think Smith is going to seriously threaten to average double-digit assists this season. Good stuff overall. Purdue got plenty out of his bench, a lot of that afforded by CJ Cox there. But yeah, just an awesome, really fun game on a night that was loaded with a lot of compelling stuff, and we'll get to that soon, obviously.
You know, Mark Sears was our preseason CBS Sports National Player of the Year. Just one game, but I promise you, if you ask Matt Painter privately who he thinks should have been CBS Sports preseason National Player of the Year, he would tell you Braden Smith. He loves Braden Smith. And Braden Smith, you know, I don't want to say outplayed Mark Sears because it wasn't about them too, but Braden Smith played well in a high-profile matchup against a top 10 team, against another elite guard, and got the win. And so he's terrific. You say Trey Kaufman-Renn will lead Purdue in scoring. Perhaps. But, you know, there's going to be nights where Braden Smith goes big.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I think when we get to the end, he's just going to wind up being the guy that averaged the most points. But Braden Smith's going to be the team MVP.
And just my last thing on this, it's so hard to run a program in a traditional way now. Some coaches, I'm assuming you hear the same thing. Some coaches have completely scrapped the idea of running a program. They're just building teams year to year. I've had coaches tell me
there is a difference when it comes to that. Although a lot of coaches don't want that to be the case, they've almost resigned themselves to how they feel they have to do it.
Right. I hear coaches say, I'm doing it this way, not because I love it, but because I don't think I can do it that way. And then I hear other coaches say, I'm going to keep trying to run a program until it's obvious I can't. But I'm going to keep trying. And at Purdue, I don't know that anybody's doing it better than Purdue right now. You went back-to-back Big Ten regular season titles.
I mean, there's a coaching team that scores. I mean,
but I mean, here's what I mean. With UConn, it's just, the cast is changing like pretty dramatically every year. Whereas we're watching Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer be 3rd-year starting guards together. Like how many high major Division I programs are going to have 2 guards start together for 3 straight years?
We'll get this later in the show, but Purdue's next opponent applies to that.
Right, but on a successful, you know, tip top of the sport, you're going to have 3 guards coming up together, playing 2 guards playing 3 years in a row, starting. Yes. It's not common. That's what I'm.
Every coach in the country would take it if they could get it, and most can't get it.
Obviously, I have no interest in a Purdue-UConn debate. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to say is that Matt Painter is still running a traditional program. He's trying to bring in young people, develop them. Sure, he'd love to get in the transfer portal and add, the Summit League Player of the Year, I guess. But there's real internal development still happening at Purdue. Still year-over-year development happening at Purdue. I don't know at how many other schools Trey Kaufman-Renn is comfortable sitting on the bench the way he's been sitting on the bench, but now he waited his turn, for lack of a better phrase, get Zach Edey out of the way, and now he's the guy in that front court. I think it's in a time where, how about this? I'll circle it back to my hometown. I hear plenty of my friends who are Memphis fans frustrated, not with all the chaos in the program, but with I don't even know who these people are. Memphis returned one player this year. And people are like, remember when we used to have 4-year players and 3-year players, and now we don't even know these people. At Purdue, people. There's people back every single year. It's being run as well as any other at the high major level in a traditional way, and that's a credit to Matt and his staff.
Yeah, Caleb First is another good example of that, who's like a true role player and has been willing to do it without a doubt. Mason Gillis obviously was there. He's in his grad year now at Duke, but he was there was an explicit arrangement between Gillis and Painter, and he enjoyed his time there at Purdue, and what Painter's doing is incredible. And yeah, the CJ Cox thing is even the latest one. We all noticed the big guys, the 7-footers. Purdue's had at least one 7-footer on his roster. We talked about it in the preseason, one of the preseason episodes. It's 15 years in a row or something like that. I don't know if it's really ever happened before. But it's not just that, but it's he's going to recruit to his program. Braden Smith is evidence of this. He saw him, prioritized him, he's got him in the program, and now he's turning him into the kind of point guard who can be NBA material. You get a little bit of split feelings on that because of Smith's size, but Painter, I think privately and publicly, has been pretty adamant about Smith's ceiling this season and his potential to be the best point guard in the country.
I'm tired of saying guys like that can't make it to the NBA, though.
I know. I hear you. I know. It's still going to be held against him because of his size, but his playmaking ability, he's
little. He's little. Yeah, he's little, and he's not a top shelf athlete.
Yep.
Those are two things that are going to work against you.
Yeah.
But you know who else is little and not a top shelf athlete? Fred VanVleet. And he's made some money.
They're not, obviously I'm not saying you're saying they're same players, but they do have some they have some common threads in the way that their college careers developed, and we'll see if Smith can continue this. As for Bama, there's no shame whatsoever in going into Mackey and being the latest victim to get picked off. If not for the fact that Purdue was, the game played out as it should have. Purdue should have won, but Bama didn't get its first made triple until the under 8 at some point, and not being able to maybe give a little more firepower and juice in the first half might have played an ultimate, big picture factor there. But Bama did get the lead in the second half, and then they wound up giving it away. Next up for Bama, though, here's what's interesting. They've got Illinois on Wednesday, and then after that, they'll play Houston the following week in the Players Era Invitational. They'll get another couple good teams. So they're going to have a lot of really good opponents. They schedule as difficult as really any team in the non-conference, and that was reflected in the Oates quote I gave you before. We'll see if they can regather and use this truly as okay, here's what we didn't get done, and can we apply this against Illinois in just a few days here? We'll assess and evaluate Bama after they take on the Illini there. Purdue, we'll get to their next opponent later in the show.